What's going on, good people? It's your boy Peacemaker back with another video. In this video here, I will be going over the build update as to what I did with the Pay Chaser build. And also shout out to my man Javon for the one-on-one. I actually used the ship against his tank build, and it did quite well. But I will be releasing the video on that as well. I guess providing my insight to, I guess you could say, battle analysis, if that's the term. But I'm not really taking up too much of your time. I'm gonna try to keep this as short. Well, not as short. I'm gonna try to keep. Okay, sorry, I lost my. I'm trying. I'm gonna try to keep this as detailed and as short as possible. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Again, I keep saying it. Time is the most valuable thing you have, so I don't want to take up too much of it. Let's go and get right into the build. Come on, Ubisoft. Let me. Had to press circle 3 times, but now I'm not gonna really go like in super detail like I have in some of my previous videos. I mean, for the most part, most people who are playing the game are pretty much already well aware, but for the people who don't know, I'm gonna just focus on the specifics that I was going for with the build. Crap. I didn't mean to do that. Alright, so the ship of choice for the Faith Chaser build, you don't have to use the Garuda, but I would recommend it. And the Garuda is devastating enemies from afar, while equipped with the ability to escape the fight gets close. If you've seen some of my videos, I'm not a sniper. I'm honestly not. I ain't saying I suck at sniping, but like, it ain't really my forte. I'm more of a mid-range person. So with the Garuda having that nice benefit of being able to escape close quarters, because I would love to do close quarters fights, which I'm not trying to get sidetracked here, but close quarter fights are a struggle for me. And just to kind of put it out there, how can I say this? There's no other choice but to say it. I have shingles in my eyes, and really fast movement and bright lights bother my eyes. So that's why I really try to stay away from close range combat. I'm not saying I can't do it, it's just not my personal preference. But that's neither here nor there. I figure I'll put that little information out there. But the perk I focused on with the Faith Chaser build is Deadeye. Weapon damage is increased based on how far you are from the target, capped at 60%. When your whole health is 40% or lower, it's going to increase your armor by 500, and trimming no longer costs crew stamina for 10 seconds. This effect has a 40-second cooldown. Now, with that in mind, let's get into the build. If you watch my channel and you watch my builds, I am trying to venture out to other games where I can do more builds on as well. But I look at my builds like a house. If you have to build a house from the ground up, you don't start with the roof, then go to, you know, the bedroom, the kitchen, blah blah blah, then you build a foundation. You start with the foundation, you build up from there. So I look at my armor like the foundation, and my armor of choice is called the Leviathan. The armor on it is 1,150. I'm not going to do it in this video, but I will be going over armor and damage mitigation from what I've seen and what I've come to understand about it. I haven't seen anybody else's videos. I don't really watch other people's build videos. I will watch their gameplay, but I won't watch their builds. Nor have I gone on Ubisoft to like get details as to how the armor and damage mitigation works, but I will be releasing a video on that. But my armor choice is Leviathan. The first perk is Hydromaniac, which every knot of sail speed increases the armor by 1.4%. So they changed that. It used to be 1%. And I believe the Garuda caps out at like 16 knots, maybe 17. Which if it's at 1%, that's a 17% increase. So then you're looking at, let's say if you were going full speed at like 16, 17 knots, you're looking at almost a 18 or 19% armor increase while sailing. The other perk is Impenetrable, reduces weak point damage by 35%, which is not bad. But let's get into the furniture. So for my furniture slot 1, I went with the Spike Station, which hitting a weak point has a 40% chance of reducing all repair effects on target ship by 75% for 15 seconds, regardless of its source. Now that includes your med kits, repair bombars, repair mortar, as well as the little Grace 3. This, let's see, what else does it? It's going to increase damage to weak points by auxiliary by 15%. It's also going to reduce the reload time of my auxiliary weapons by 7%. Now for my furniture slot 2, I went with the tuning station, which is going to increase secondary damage of torpedoes by 20%. Timeout. When are they? Okay. I clear that used to be like 13% versus the 20%, but I'm not complaining. Which I'm not completely up to speed as to what stats they changed on some of these furnitures, but I'm just now realizing that. Let's see, we also got the increased projectile speed of torpedoes by 13%, which I think previously that was like 10%, which is an increase, which I'm not going to complain about. It's also going to restore 10% crew stamina per second while out of combat, which I'm trying to keep eye out of it, but that was previously a don't do I. Previously, it was like 5%. So that's a 5% increase. Got an increase to the secondary damage from torpedoes and projectile speed. Not bad. Okay. My bad. I'm just now like noticing this stuff in the middle of making this video. But let's see. Furniture slot 3, I went with the high velocity kegs, which is going to increase secondary damage of piercing weapons by 12%. Timeout. So you increase this, but you decrease the secondary damage from 15 to 12. You don't say. Anyways, it's going to increase. Well, high velocity kids is going to increase secondary damage of piercing weapons by 12%. It's also going to increase the maximum range of piercing weapons by 8%. So their range stayed the same. Okay, cool. Now for my furniture slot 4, I went with the organ harvesting station, which is going to increase rocket damage by 5% for every 20% of whole health missing from player's ship. It's also going to increase secondary damage of rockets by 10%. It's also going to reduce the reload time of rockets by 5%. So you're looking at an overall 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're looking at a 12% increased reload to your auxiliary, combining organs harvester station with the spike station. So keep that in mind. For my furniture slot 5, this is a new one, the Fuse Fusion Station. It's going to decrease the reload time of front and rear weapons by 9%. Okay, they changed that too, which I believe it was like what, 15% prior. I did I again. Tag on it. It's going to decrease the reload time of front weapons and rear weapons by 9%. It's going to increase secondary damage dealt from front and rear weapons by 9%. Okay. My bad, I got sidetracked in my little building process. And lastly, for my furniture slot 6, you all know I'm pretty. I want to say I'm known. Well, I was no, not. Well, yeah, I'm known for putting the maintenance forge in 1 and my furniture slot 6, which is going to reduce, well, not reduce, restore 1% severe damage per second while out of combat. Now, before we go into the weapons, I've already shown you the increase auxiliary weapon reload by 12% with the spike station and the organ harvesting station. Now, with the organ harvesting station, we get increased secondary damage from rockets by 10%. With the high velocity kegs, we're going to increase that secondary damage of the rockets from 10 to 22% secondary damage with my rockets, as well as getting that increased range, as well as that 5% for every 20% of the whole health missing from the player's ship. So those two go well together. You definitely want to go with the tuning station, because the tuning station is going to give you that secondary damage as well as the projectile speed compared to the Hubeck tuner rack, which is going to increase your range, reduce armor distance, and projectile speed by 10%. So you definitely want to go with the tuner station. But let's get right into the final steps, which is the weapons. Now, my weapon of choice for my bow is the Banner 10 Suns. 100% stand by this weapon. Damage is only, well, the damage I have on mine that I have equipped is 1,293. My reload is a little under a second, which I do have a different Garuda build that I have not shown. I've got that reload time on that ballista down to like 0.6, which is pretty quick. Don't get me wrong, like even under a second is pretty quick, but that's lightning fast. But the Benetton Suns on my bow, the main perk I focused on, combined with the Deadeye that the Garuda gives you, is the unrelenting drill. So Deadeye, just a quick refresher. Deadeye weapon damage is increased based on how far you are from the target, capped at 60%. With this weapon having a range of 972, I'm going to be doing quite a bit of damage. And not only am I going to be doing quite a bit of damage, with the perk of the unrelenting drill, which fires a drill bolt that travels in a straight path, piercing multiple targets. Drill bolts deal additional 50% to sequential targets after hitting the first target, meaning the target behind it is going to take more damage than the target out in front. It also does level 3 piercing, which adds 30% of damage, as piercing damage is increased damage to weak points by 100%. Now, for my modification slots, my first one, I went with Rupturing, which is going to add 11.2% damage as flood damage. My modification slot 2, I went with Amplified Flooding, which is going to increase existing flood damage by 31.3%. And also for my modification slot 3, I went with Amplified Flooding, which is going to increase existing flood damage by 33%. So overall, let's say 33, 31, that puts us at 64 plus 11, 75% overall in flood damage with the way I have this one set up. Now, I do have another one. I don't want y'all to see everything in my bag. Nope. Where is it? Yes, that's the one. All right. So I've already gone over that the Bannerton Suns has the Armor Drill able to pierce multiple targets and do 50% more damage to the target behind it. Now, before I go any further, this Unrelenting Drill that penetrates the Blight Keeper as well. So if you're going up against B.K.W.R or another player who's using the Blight Keeper as a defense, this weapon here is going to go right through it. And not only, or once you penetrate that barrier, you're also going to increase the damage for penetrating that barrier to the target behind the barrier. So keep that in mind as well. So for my modification slot with my other one, I also went with Rupturing, which is going to add 10.4% damage and flood damage. I was really going for that 11, but you don't always get what you want. For my second modification slot, for if I want to change my playing style, I went with Death Blow. And it says for targets with 25% whole health or less, hits have a 13.4% chance to instantly destroy them. For elite targets, the effect reduces their whole health by 3% instead of instant destruction. And for my last perk on my other one, on my other Bannerton Suns for this ship, I went with Severity, which hits have a 12% chance of dealing an additional 109% damage as severe. Now, real quickly, as you can see, I went with all flooding damage on this one here to really quickly build that flood charge. And we all know that flood status effects on this game cause severe damage, which is going to reduce your overall health as well as reduce your brave strength. So instead of me like really waiting to build this flood charge really quickly, with this other Bannerton Suns, not only am I still doing the flood damage, which is still going to build up fairly quickly but not quite as quick, but I also had that 12% chance to already do 109% damage as severe on top of the flood damage that I may be causing. And let's say if I get you to, let's say, quarter health, that puts this weapon here in particular at a 13% chance of instantly destroying the target, which is not bad. But let's get right into what I did with my port and my starboard side. I do not know how to pronounce these torpedoes just yet. I don't know why. I'm struggling with that, but I will get the pronunciation right. But the perk of these torpedoes in particular is Sunder, which once armed, torpedoes increase speed by 100% and penetrate through target ships. Torpedoes also reduce armor by 200 for 10 seconds. So not only am I piercing multiple targets with the unrelenting drill from the Bannerton Suns, I'm also piercing multiple targets with these torpedoes here, as well as reducing their armor by 200, which is not, yeah, it adds up pretty quickly. Now these torpedoes here do level 2 piercing and level 2 flooding, which is not bad. So for my modification slots that I did with these, my first one is the firepower, which is going to increase damage by 11%. That's not really the perk I was really going for, but it works. I was really going for the flooding to increase that severe damage. The Bannerton Suns does level 3 piercing, so I'm not really too much worried about the piercing. The torpedoes are just like a backup to that. And for my modification slide, did I say furniture? Anyways, my modification slide 2 with my port side torpedoes is Soul Mending, which puts me at 6.2% damage dealt from this weapon, restores whole health. And since this has the ability to pierce multiple targets, it don't matter if it's NPC or multiple players, 6.2% of that damage dealt from this weapon is going to give me my whole health back, which is clutch when you still waiting, let's say 10 seconds before your next repair kit cooldown. And then lastly, for my modification slot 3, I went with Brute, which hits have a 16% chance to restore 320 break strength to this ship. So not only am I getting some of my whole health back, I'm also increasing, well, getting some of my, not increasing, getting some of my break strength back as well. So it's really not a bad mix for my playing style. Let's have a look at what I did with my starboard torpedoes. We already went over all that. So my modification slot 1 with these, I got the rupturing, which adds 9 point, well, almost 10% damage is flood damage. I did the same thing here. So many and brute. So it don't matter if they're on my port side or starboard side, I have a chance to get my whole health back as well as get some of my break strength back, which can actually keep me into the fight. Now for my stern, I went with these Scarlet Long Nines. These here are, I think, are still overlooked. Not completely as bad as they were in previous seasons, but they're still overlooked. And the Scarlet Long Nines, the main perk of it is Mass Breaker, which is going to deal 7,000 damage after the Torrent status effect is applied to your opponent. And these are also the only long guns I know that do level 3 piercing, so keep that in mind as well. The Scarlet Long Nines also do level 2 tearing, which is going to increase damage by 50% when hitting cells. Now, my main reason for putting these Scarlet Long Nines on the back of my ship is because I don't know if it's my name, I don't know if it's my playing style, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I'm not trying to do this intentionally. If anything, I'm just trying to enjoy the game and kind of come in clutch for my team. But I end up in these situations where I piss off people in these groups, and it's almost like stepping on an ant. When you step on one, they all come for you. It's kind of like that type of energy. So with the Scarlet Long Nines on my stern, it really puts the person who's chasing me or people who are chasing me at a bit of a disadvantage. Even if they know what they're doing, it does kind of put them at a disadvantage. And I'm gonna explain why. So for my modification slide 1 with the Scarlet Long Nines is the rapid reload, which is going to reduce the reload time by 9, or right at, I say 10%, which is pretty clutch, especially when somebody's chasing you. My second modification slot, I went with lethal, which is going to increase weak point damage by 36%. And then lastly, for my modification slot 3, I went with Grace of the Winds. And it says hits have a 8.7% chance to increase turn speed by 10% for 15 seconds. This effect can be stacked up to 3 times. Now, if you play the game, you know the Garuda is not really... It can turn, but it could be better. And as I explained in those situations while being chased, instead of me just shooting these 2 Scarlet Long Nines, if I get that Grace of Winds, that'll help me set up not only my Scarlet Long Nines as well as my torpedoes as well, to reduce their armor by 200, as well as get some health back as well as some break strength back. Now to top this off, for my auxiliary, I went with the Thermites level 3. And these Thermites are mainly for like structures, but the main reason I went with these for the auxiliary is because of the range at 432 versus like a standard rocket, which only gets like 300 meters. So an extra 132 meters can really make a difference when you're being chased, or you know, the target just a little out of range. But you do have to be pretty precise with your aiming with these thermites. Just be aware of that. These also do level 1 burning, level 1 piercing. But for my modification slots that I did with my thermites, I went with sharpen, which adds 10.2% damage as piercing damage. My modification slot 2, I went with tearing, which is going to increase damage by 37% when hitting cells. And since this is our auxiliary weapon, and the cells being pretty much the easiest target to hit on any opponent ship, that kind of comes in clutch. Then lastly, on top of that tearing, I went with the cell ripper, which hits that triggers the torn cells status effect, deals 321 damage, which is quite a bit of damage taken out. You got 321 at 37%. On top of the Skurlock Lone Knives doing level 2 tearing. Yeah, that's quite a bit of damage when you're tearing cells, which is not really my playing style. I don't really like going for cells, but I will if I have to. And again, if I'm being chased by some toxic or pissed off person and the whole group gets involved, if you start chasing me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to hit you with the I'm gonna have to build up that torn cell status effect. Not to his threshold where I actually get the status effect, but like maybe a couple shots away. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna hit you with the mass breaker, which is gonna do 7,000 damage after the torn status effect is applied. Then I'm gonna hit you with the thermites level 3, because I'm gonna get that increased damage by also 37% when hitting cells, on top of the 321 after I applied the torn cell stats effect with the Skurlock Lone Knives. You can literally like take somebody out and like just the torn cell stats effect on top of these thermites. It'll if you don't take them out, you take off a pretty good chunk of their health. So I do have some videos of that. I'll show that later, but that's pretty much an update as to what I did with my Face Chaser build in Season 5. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Hope I didn't get sidetracked too much. Till then, I do have more builds on the way, not just with Skull and Bones. I am looking at some other games as well. If you want to offer some suggestions, feel free to leave it down in the comment. And lastly, before I let you go, if you made it this far into the video, put a letter from the alphabet in the comment section, if you don't mind. Totally optional, you don't have to do it, but if you do, cool. If you don't worry about it. But my goal is, by you giving me an alphabet, I'm hoping, not hoping, I guess hoping and trying technically means the same thing. Does it? Maybe not. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. Put a letter down in the description, and my goal is to try to give you some motivation from a positive source, I guess you could. I can't even say guess you could say. I'm gonna try to give you some positive motivation from a positive source in my next video. And depending on what letter, I think what I'm gonna have my wife do, like I did with the giveaway, which I am gonna try to do that again this season. I had my wife pick like one of those letters randomly, and that letter will be, I'm gonna try to give you a word and some motivation based off the letter. I'm trying a different approach here, but like I said, it's totally optional. You don't have to do it, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Take it easy.